Hello everyone and welcome to Stan the Wineman TV. I am your host, Stan Rattan, and this is the Blue Collar Wine Program where I try to help you spend your wine dollars wisely. And I got a bunch of wines on the table. I know you're nervous. Is this going to be a long episode? The answer to that is no. But I wanted to go through the Tempus Cellars wines. I got these samples and I thought I would do Joe Forrest a service. Excellent winemaker for Tempus Cellars. He actually the owner of the winery. And he is also the winemaker for Paddock Creek in Walla Walla. Now when I say help you spend your wine dollars wisely, every once in a while a guy like Joe Forrest comes along and starts producing these fabulous wines that cost a little bit more money. But we're talking about wines that you can put away in the cellar, that you can drink if you want something a little bit special. So let's get started right away. The first one we're going to try is the Tempus Cellars 2012 Riesling from the ancient Evergreen Vineyards in the Ancient Lakes appellation, Washington State. Now Evergreen Vineyards, I'll give you a little shot of the label here. Okay. Evergreen Vineyards is a very famous vineyard for producing white wines, Chardonnay and Riesling, owned by the Milbrandt boys. Let's give this a little rinse. It's a beautiful day outside, getting ready to go around the golf with my buddy Sid, but I thought I would do this first. Now Joe Forrest, I've had his Riesling in the past, always thought they were fabulous, excellent Rieslings. Let's see what we get on the nose. Oh, this one rolls in at $16. What I like about Evergreen Vineyards in Washington State is it's one of the vineyards that really gives that petrol nose to a Riesling. And that, you know, for those of you really into Riesling, it doesn't always have to be there, but it really makes Riesling interesting when it has that petrol, that rubber boot smell. A little bit of diesel, get a little bit of peaches and apples. Some nice white flowers coming through. Let's see what we get on palate. I was looking up on the website for Tempus Cellars, which means Tempus is a Latin word for time, I believe. I wrote this down. Yeah, for time. It can be loosely translated a series of firsts, and then on the website it gives all these firsts that's happened to them in a really quick period of time. First winery, they got married for the first time, had a child. All these things happen really quickly. So the name has some meaning to it, which is always a good thing. At least I think most wineries, of course, want to have a meaning behind their name. The beauty of the 2012 vintage in Washington, everything's coming out fantastic. I've had Tempest Riesling in the past, a little bit sharper on the palate because of the vintage. This has a little bit more, a little roundness in the mid palate. You get a lot of peaches, you get some apple. There's definitely a minerality that is very, very typical of Evergreen Vineyards. The website said it's one of the driest Rieslings that he's done. This is very dry, but of that roundness in the mid palate, a little bit of lemon pith coming through. I get a little bit of orange blossom on this one. Really like it a lot, and pretty incredible Riesling. Reasonably priced, $16 is not a lot. I've seen a lot of Rieslings rolling in now, close to 18 bucks, some even more, around $25. This is nice because I think a lot of it is a nice transition Riesling, because even though it's dry, it has that nice fruit that a lot of you are going to like. I'm going A- on that Riesling. I think it's excellent. Let's move on to the next one. Tempus Cellars 2011 Grenache, Yakima Valley, Washington. And this one rolls in at $25. Washington State is starting to play more and more with the Rhone varietals, and they're doing an excellent job. Of course, Grenache is a huge player in Baccarat's region of the Rhone Valley, and a big part of the makeup of Chateauneuf du Pape. There's Grenache in that. And of course, in Spain, it's huge. They call it Garnacha in Spain. This rolls in at $25. We're not talking budget wine here, but 25 bucks, that's not terrible. Lots of strawberries on the nose. Typical of Grenache. If you were in a blind tasting event and you were smelling a red wine, you look at the color. Grenache is a little lighter in color, and definitely, ooh, you see it against this white shirt. Dangerous material here. Remember, always better to wear darker clothes when you're tasting wine. But, sometimes you live on the edge. But in a blind tasting, a Grenache would definitely have strawberry as one of the aroma characteristics. A little bit of minerality on this. Tiny hit of tar, maybe a little bit of tobacco. I get some red plums. Let's see what we get on the palate. Little violets too, which is interesting. Nice weight in the mouth, a little bit elegant, I get the strawberries big time, red plums, nice smooth silky tannins. A little bit of spiciness, just a touch. Get a little bit of white pepper on the back end. Loads of red flowers on this one. This is a beauty. I like it a lot. It's 25 bucks. It's worth every penny of $25. I'm going to go B+ on that one. The only reason I'm going B+, A-, B+, A-. 25 bucks, you're getting up there a little bit. You can get a lot of Grenache for less than that. But this is good quality. I'm going to go A- on this one, actually. I like it. Let's go this way. Now we're going to move on to the 2010. Oh, by the way, that effort on 2011 Grenache, I'm telling you, 11 was a tough vintage. It was there was a lot. It was a lot cooler. There was more rain. They had a freeze in fall of 2010 that hit a lot of the fruit. So Joe did a nice job with that Grenache for the vintage, especially. Let's move on to the next one. Tempus Cellars 2010 Sera, Yakima Valley, Washington. This one rolls in at $28, so we're getting up there a little bit more. Tempus Cellars. Based out of Walla Walla, the winery is. Let's see what we get on this one. Syrah is one of my favorite varietals. I love Syrah. I think it's very versatile with food. You can do a lot of things with it. And particularly does well in Washington State. Let's see what we get on the nose. So I get that nice smokiness, smoky leather, earth. Get a little bit currants coming through. Boysenberry big time. A little bit of that bacon, not a huge amount. It's not a big part of this aroma profile, but let's see what we get on the palate. Good structure, good acidity. I mean, it's not bright, but it's on the backbone of it. I get that bacon, I get the boysenberry, I get the currants. I get a nice, is very balanced. I mean, it just kind of flows nicely across the palate. It has some nice minerality, good earth. There's a lot of things going on in this Syrah that are very impressive. A little bit of tar action. I'm even getting some blueberry notes on the back end, which is very interesting. This thing is lingering. I mean, it's like hanging on. This has got like a little bit of that smoked meat thing going on with that acidity, which tells me, which should tell any one of you that what you're looking for in a wine, maybe you want to tuck away for a little bit. And by the way, it's always a good idea to kind of, especially if you're in your 20s right now, if you're in your 20s and you're starting to get into wine and you're really interested, maybe tuck a couple away. Start a little cellar. It doesn't have to be huge. You know, you don't have to spend $100 on a bottle of wine and say, oh, I got this wine in my cellar. You can tuck away this nice little Syrah from Tempus Cellars for under $30, and that baby's going to improve immensely. I'm going A- on that one. Like it. 2011 Tempranillo, Tempus Cellars, Walla Walla Valley, Yellow Bird Vineyard. Now, I never heard of Yellow Bird Vineyard. This is a first for me. Or maybe I have. I just can't remember. There we go. Sorry. $33. Okay, now we're over 30 bucks. Don't be afraid. A lot of people spend a whole lot more than that for a Rioja from Spain, which is made from Tempranillo. So, of course, I'm not saying it's worth 33 bucks yet. I haven't tried it. Let's see what we get on the nose. Ooh, a little bit of stink action. A little bit like somebody just struck a match, and it's got a little bit of that. Now, Joe's probably going, why'd you say that? Well, because sometimes that can be a flaw in wine, but in a lot of cases it's not. It's just an aroma profile. Getting a little bit of tar. Currants for sure. Almost a little bit of like root beer, sarsaparilla, which a lot of people like to say. Get a little black plum action going on. Very interesting nose, as we would say. There's almost like a sweetness, like a sweet vanilla component coming through. A little bit of leather. Get a little bit of rose petal. Very interesting nose. Let's see what we get on the palate. Now that's incredibly intense. Did not expect that from a Tempranillo. A lot of dark fruit, very smooth and polished on the palate. Intense notes of currants and blackberries and plums. There's a solid core of mineralities too, almost like we heard the term forest floor. I don't expect you guys to go out and start eating dirt, but the smells, translate the smells into what you might taste on your palate, just a little bit, not a lot. I mean, this baby, and then there's white pepper on the finish, the red flowers come through, the rose petal, the leather. This is an intense wine. I'm actually kind of blown away at how intense this Tempranillo is. Now, my understanding is he got about a 90 maybe on his Riesling from the Spectator. I think he got a 92 on his Cab. Baby, this is unbelievable. If you want to try a Tempranillo from Washington, I would go Tempus Cellars. This is incredibly intense. The finish is still there. I get that earthy, dark fruit. I mean, this baby could cover a huge I'm going to have to get my hands on some more bottles of this. This is worth seeking out. Tempus Cellars, 2011. Again, a challenging vintage, but he did an excellent job. I'm going A on that one. Hedging towards, I'm going A+. This is only the third time I've gone A+, but that wine is incredible. Now let's move on to the next one. A+. Those are hard for me to give out. Like I said, I think this is only the third, maybe the fourth time since I started going grading system instead of points that I've given an A+. Now we're on to the 2010 Merlot, 100% Merlot, Walla Walla Valley, $28. I get so pissed off about Merlot because so many people are anti-Merlot because of that stupid movie, which I just watched the other day. I love the movie. Just that whole thing that it did to Merlot just kills me. Merlot is such a good wine. I'm running out of room. I'm going to put this over here, okay? There we go. Let's see what we get on the nose. Intense currants. I mean intense, like ripe currants. Underlying blackberry. Interesting spice. I can't quite put my finger on it. There's a little vanilla on the nose, which no doubt comes from the oak. Very perfumed. The aromas just kind of come out of the glass and really penetrate your nose big time. A little bit of black licorice coming through. Almost a little bit of a cinnamon action going on, which I find very intriguing. Let's see what we get on the palate. Can you one-up the Tempranillo? Almost. Almost. This Merlot is fantastic. Concentrated on the palate. Spicy. I get a little white pepper action. A lot of currants and red and black currants coming through on the palate. Blackberries. Definitely, I get even like a red and black licorice thing going on. There's a little bit of toastiness, a little bit of tar coming through. Red flowers all day. Almost like, not fresh red flowers, but almost like partly decayed red flowers coming through. Intense. I mean, from start to finish, hits you. And then the end, it's just almost chewy, but not quite. It's elegant enough that it's not chewy. You don't get heavy tannins on this one. Now, if you're anti-Merlot, start seeking out some Washington Merlot, because Merlot out of Washington is fantastic. Like Sera, Washington does Merlot. I think some of the best Merlots in the world come from Washington. Rivals Right Bank, France. I said it. It rivals Right Bank, France. I think so. And this one is a classic example of what you can do with Merlot in Washington State. That's crazy good. Crazy good. I'm going to go A on that one. I'm going to stick with my Tempranillo, exceptional. Merlot is top notch. Going A on that one. Wow. I'm not even feeling generous this morning. I'm being generous. Now this is the 2010 Cabernet Sauvignon. It got 92 points Wine Spectator. Harvey Steinman liked it. That's what that means, by the way. Harvey Steinman, Washington Wine Reviewer, liked it. That's all that means. A+ on the Tempranillo means Stan likes it. Well, I mean, you know, we can get all full of ourselves and say, yeah, we You know, we know what elements should be in wine, and yeah, we do. I mean, you know, Harvey knows what you're looking for in a wine. But there's the X factor, and the X factor is our palates. Your palate, my palate may be different. Always remember that. You're not wrong if you don't like a wine that I like. You're not wrong if you don't like a wine that Harvey likes. That's okay. Yes, we drink a lot of wine. Yes, we have comparisons of what we've tasted in the past. We can compare it to something else. But bottom line, it's your palate. That's all that matters. And I'm giving these grades based on elements of the wine, how they, you know, if they're balanced, if they're not out of whack or whatever. But bottom line, the X factor is my palate, how I like it. Don't ever forget that. I never forget that. Let's see what we get on the nose. Oh, did I tell the price? This is a 2010 cab. Actually, it's 91% cab, 9% Merlot. So I threw a little bit of Merlot in there. Good for him. And it's Columbia Valley fruit. So Columbia Valley is a huge appellation. So he's source of fruit from, could be Yakima, could be Horseheaven Hills, could be a mixture of all those things. Let's see what we get on the nose. So this is like dusty leather, cherries and currants. This is classic cab nose. I mean, it's all you're looking for in a cab. That kind of that really old school, you know, leathery, cherry, currant thing going on. A little bit of tobacco coming through too. Let's see what we get on the palate. More tannins than any of these wines. It's got a little bit of grip action going on. I get a little bit of that oak coming through. Very, very elegant. A lot of finesse on the palate in this one. You get a lot of currants and cherries coming through. You get a little backbone of acidity that's obvious. There's a lot of leather and rose petal on this one. Good balance. Don't like it as much as I like the Merlot. I think the Merlot has a little more intensity. This is definitely more elegant. This is the lady of the bunch. This is the one that, you know, if you like the more feminine style cabs, but it still has some intensity on the back end. Don't get me wrong. It's a great cab. Leather, rose petal, currants, cherries. Nice backbone of acidity. This baby will lay down 5 to 10 years easily. $32 is not asking a lot for a Cabernet Sauvignon from Washington State. I think I agree with Harvey on this one. I'm gonna go A minus, B plus on this one. More on the A minus side. Very well made cab. You would not feel cheated if you went $32. I'm gonna pour a little bit more of this Tempranillo, baby. Good job, Joe Forrest, on the Tempus Cellars wines. And thanks for watching. Cheers. And here's to keeping the snob out of wine.